Each and every year, there are about 35-star recruits in every high school football recruiting class. These are guys who are supposed to be stars, the futures of college football programs, and eventual NFL draft picks. Every once in a while, though, there's some of these guys that completely flame out and end up playing a lower level of football. It's honestly not as common as you think, though, as over the last 5 years of high school football classes, there are only a handful of players that are now at a group of 5 level. Most of them are still getting an opportunity at the Power 4 level, but in today's video, I wanted to give you some examples of some 5-star recruits who are currently playing at smaller schools, aka the group of 5. I ended up coming up with 7 examples for you guys, and we're going to talk about who they are, what happened to them, and where they are now. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about 5-star recruits who are now at smaller schools. Okay, so our first example is a player by the name of Shaz Preston. Honestly, I do not know a ton about him, and it was sort of hard to find. He was a 4-star recruit on pretty much every site, but on ESPN, he was listed as the number 17 overall player and a 5-star in his high school recruiting class. Going back in time, Shaz ended up coming out of St. James High School, which was located in Louisiana, and had a good couple of years. Preston was seen as one of those speedster type players who had the athleticism to make it at the top, and he decided to commit to Alabama over the likes of Georgia and LSU. Shaz Preston was a part of that big-time Alabama recruiting class, but unfortunately, he was never able to get on the field there. He literally never played a snap for the Crimson Tide and would decide to transfer. Ahead of the 2024 season, he would choose the Tulane Green Wave, who had recently produced a couple of NFL receivers, and they were looking for some new weapons for their new quarterback, Darian Mensah. This past year, Preston would end up getting on the field a bit, as he caught 4 total passes for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. Looking at those numbers, he averaged 25 yards a catch and caught a touchdown pass on every 2 receptions. It seems that he can make big plays, but he just can't be consistent enough to get on the field a lot. For a 5-star recruit, he's obviously been a bust, but ESPN's weird with the rankings, and maybe he should have never been a 5-star to begin with. Our second example is former 5-star recruit Denver Harris. He was a part of that epic 2022 Texas A&M recruiting class, as he was listed as the number 4 corner and the 23rd best player in the class of 2022. He ended up going to the prestigious North Shore High School, which produces a ton of talent, but a lot of times these guys don't seem to work out when they go to Texas A&M. Denver ended up playing a little bit as a true freshman at A&M, finishing with 14 total tackles and 3 pass deflections. Things were seemingly going alright for him, but then he decided to transfer to LSU ahead of the 2023 season. In total, with the Tigers, he only ended up having 7 total tackles with 2 pass deflections. Denver was in hot water while he was there, and then transferred to UTSA ahead of the 2024 campaign. He had gone down to the group of 5 level, and finished with 16 total tackles and 3 pass deflections. Instead of sticking around for 1 more year, Harris would end up transferring for a 3rd time, and will now end up at UNLV with head coach Dan Mullen. This will be his 4th school in 4 years, and Harris has been an interesting story, and unfortunately has not been able to put things together. For our 3rd example, we're going to talk about another 5-star wide receiver, and that is a Gier Hall. He ended up being ranked as a 5-star according to On3, and was a 4-star by both 24/7 Sports and Rivals. Going back in time, he went to Bloomingdale High School, which is located in Florida, and Hall was a really fun player to watch while he was in high school. He became one of the most highly sought after players in the nation, and would decide to commit to Alabama. The Crimson Tide got another gem of a receiver in Hall, but unfortunately he was always in trouble. He appeared in 7 games and had 4 catches for 72 yards with the Crimson Tide, and actually played in the national championship game against Georgia. After the season was over, he would decide to transfer over to Texas, where he was then suspended indefinitely by the Longhorns following getting arrested. Just a couple of months later, he entered the transfer portal for a 2nd time and would decide to go over to UCF. He was suspended all of the 2023 campaign, and then ended up not actually ever playing for UCF. He never reported to play for the Golden Knights, so in his first 3 years he had 4 catches, and also some legal trouble. This past season, he decided to go back into the transfer portal and committed to play for Sacramento State. They're the FCS team that everybody seemingly wants to play for right now because they have money, and they're trying to move up to the FBS, so he will join Jaden Rashada and will try to become his number 1 weapon and save his career. For our 4th example, we're going to talk about another wide receiver who was a 5-star at one point. When Caleb Burton decided to commit to Ohio State, He was the top receiver in his high school class and was considered a top 10 overall recruit. He went to the prestigious Lake Travis High School, and Burton was the guy. He caught 82 passes for 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns during his first 2 seasons. Unfortunately, he ended up getting a serious knee injury and would miss his entire junior season, and was also out for part of his senior season. He was hoping to follow in the footsteps of Garrett Wilson, but unfortunately that injury would affect him. He was bumped down to a 4-star, but at one point he was a 5-star. I'm telling you, it is kind of hard to find 5-star recruits who are at Group of 5 schools, so we will be going off of a technicality here. Burton arrived at Ohio State and ended up not doing anything. He didn't step on the field and then transferred to Auburn. In 2023, Burton caught a career-high 16 passes for 226 yards without a touchdown and returned in 2024. He ended up getting stuck behind guys like Keandre Lambert-Smith and Cam Coleman and never saw the field. He caught 2 passes for 49 yards, and in 2 years on the Plains, he had 18 receptions for about 275 yards. He had still not registered a touchdown, and ahead of the 2025 season, he entered the portal and now goes down to level 2 UConn. UConn ended up having a good year last year, and hopefully Burton can become the top weapon on that Huskies team and save his career, but for a guy who was at one point a 5-star, it is kind of sad to see. It seems like that knee injury in high school really affected him to this day. At one point, one of the most highly sought after players in all of high school football was defensive lineman Cory Foreman. He ended up going to Centennial High School, which was located in Corona, California, and he was listed as the number 3 overall recruit in the country. Foreman was supposed to be the next big thing, and he was a part of the class of 2021. This came after a tremendous high school career. Foreman would end up committing to USC, but unfortunately, in his 3 years there, he was never really able to get going. He had 11 tackles in 2021, 13 in 2022, and then just 1 in 2023. Foreman decided to transfer to Fresno State in the 2024 season, and last year had his best season yet. He finished with 24 total tackles, 2 pass deflections, 3 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. By all indications online, it seems that Foreman is coming back for the 2025 season, and honestly I think he could become a really good player for them, one of the top players in the Mountain West, and could see himself get drafted. I mean, at one point this guy was literally the number 1 recruit in the country, and now he's playing in the Mountain West. For our second to last player, we're going to talk about another receiver, the 4th one of the night, in Chris Marshall. He ended up coming out of Fort Bend Marshall High School in Texas, and this guy has been all over the place. At one point, Chris Marshall was considered the number 3 wide receiver and the 25th best player in the class of 2022. This came after a high school career in which he was really good. He ended up having 1,000 yards and 18 touchdowns as a junior, and then in just 7 games as a senior, had about 500 yards and 11 touchdowns. He also played basketball, was extremely quick, and decided to commit to Texas A&M, and was a part of that epic class. Unfortunately, he probably should have made a different decision, as after having 11 catches for 100 yards in his freshman year, he would not end up playing for a little while. He'd then have to transfer over to Kilgore Junior College, and during that season, he had 21 catches for 449 yards and 5 touchdowns. He then entered the transfer portal one more time, and settled on Boise State. Sadly, as a junior in 2024, he only had 3 catches for 13 yards before he would end up getting injured. I guess he was able to play in the college football playoff, which is cool, but Chris Marshall unfortunately goes down as a bust. I believe he at least has 1 more season left, so we'll see if he can put it all together next year. And last but not least, we have 5-star quarterback Malachi Nelson. At one point, Nelson was considered the top player in the nation, but he fell to being the number 5 quarterback and the 11th overall recruit in the class of 2023. He ended up going to Los Alamitos High School and was offered by teams while he was in 8th grade. He ended up throwing for 1,500 yards and 23 touchdowns during his sophomore season, and this helped him really blow up. He was then named the state's player of the year, throwing for 2,700 yards and 39 touchdowns as a junior, and committed to Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley then ended up going to USC, and Malachi Nelson followed suit. He was sort of the next big thing and the guy everybody was talking about in the 2023 class, but things never worked out for Malachi. During his freshman season at USC, he completed 1 of 3 passes and then eventually decided to transfer. It looked like USC was going ahead with Miller Moss, so he decided to go over to Boise State, just like Chris Marshall did. Last season, he ended up losing the job, and Boise State was better off without him. Sure, they had Ashton Jeanty, but they made it all the way to the college football playoff, and as a backup, Nelson went 12 of 17 for 128 yards without a touchdown and an interception. If you would have told me through 2 seasons that Malachi Nelson would not throw a touchdown, I would have called you crazy. Seeing the writing on the wall, Malachi went even lower as he's now at UTEP. If he doesn't win the starting job there, he never will, but honestly, at this point I feel a little bit bad for him. To me, he kinda is a little bit Spencer Rattler-like, as hopefully here he gets humbled and honestly balls out. He gives me a reason to watch UTEP this fall, and again, I hope he has a huge season and transfers back up to the Power 4 level and gets back to his 5-star status. Looking back at these 5 guys, it's sort of interesting. You ended up having 2 guys from Texas A&M, 2 from USC, 2 from Alabama, and 1 from Ohio State. There might be a couple of other 5-stars that I missed, but what do you think? Who's another example of a 5-star recruit who flamed out? What video style should I do next? And before you go, don't forget to also leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.